Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a look at a returning card that is coming back in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and it is a very big deal indeed. It's Palpad. Palpad is back, and your old pal Wassy has gone and checked the Japanese text, which I'm totally able to do now, and I'm so proud of myself. And it is exactly the same card. There is no difference in the text. It is back, and it is good. And it is actually just in time, because the last time that Palpad was actually printed was back in the Sword and Shield base set, which has a deregulation mark. And, of course, you will, well, if you don't know, let me tell you now, but you should know, because I told you this before, but we know that when we hit the rotation in April, middle of April, we are rotating, and we are rotating out the D block, which basically means year one of the Sword and Shield TCG, which includes the Sword and Shield base set, which would include Palpad. So this isn't actually really doing anything to change the game. It is in fact doing the opposite. What's happening here is this is taking a card that should be rotating out, that should be leaving the game and going, nah mate, it's alright, you can stay, you can stay. You're still in the game, you're not rotating out. And this is a really big deal, ladies and gentlemen. This is a really big deal. And when it comes to cards like this, sometimes when you're trying to decide if a card is good or not, one of the things you can do is go and have a look at something like Limitless TCG. You can go and have a look at the winning decks around at the moment, and you can see how widely the card is played. Go and look at recent tournaments, go and look at the results, go and look at the deck list of the winners and go, right, okay, how widely is this actually being played? And I go and have a look at, say, Arlington Regionals, the most recent big regionals we saw, and it was won by a Lugia deck. I didn't play Palpad. And second place, we see a Vikavolt deck that doesn't play Palpad. And you can keep going. And this is not the point. It's a card at the moment which is an occasional tech in some decks. It doesn't see a huge amount of play. And that is not the point. Because it doesn't matter how much play it sees now. Because generally speaking, and this is a rough guide, but we're expecting about 3 years. That's roughly what we see in terms of card legality. Especially for a base set, we're looking at about 3 years. The Sword and Shield TCG came out in 2020, and February 2020 in English, and is rotating out in April 2023. That's just over 3 years. It should be just under, but we've got a slightly later rotation to kind of sync us up a little bit with Japan. So it's going to be legal for about 3 years. So what this does is it takes a card that was right on the verge of rotating out and tells us we're going to have it for another 3 years. And it doesn't really matter how much play it's seeing now. That is largely irrelevant. Because it's not legal just now. It's legal. It's going to rotate out now. Instead of 2023, it's going to be rotating out in 2026, presumably when Generation 10 launches into Pokemon TCG. I am actually a little bit excited for that, but maybe we can look to see what Generation 9 has for us, what Scarlet and Violet is doing, before we get too deep into what Generation 10 might be bringing us. Let's just enjoy what we've got now for the moment. So, this card is going to be legal for an extra 3 years, and that is a very, very big deal indeed, because this is a really very good card. It lets you find 2 supporter cards in your discard pile and shuffle them back into your deck. It is supporter card recovery. It is very good supporter card recovery. Is it as good as something like Versus Seeker? No. The big difference with Versus Seeker is that is a card that lets you get it directly into your hand. So essentially you play Versus Seeker, immediately pick up a supporter card and use it straight away. I've talked about this on my Cards That Are Never Being Reprinted series, one of the best favourite series I do on this channel. I'm a huge fan of Versus Seeker. I think it's a great card, but there's a very good reason why Versus Seeker isn't being reprinted right now. Because it's incredibly powerful and Pokemon have decided, you know what, mate? Nah. We don't need this, all right? We're going to be okay. So what they've done instead is they've lent towards Pal Pad, and I do believe, incidentally, that we're not going to be getting this back. I don't believe we're going to be getting Versus Seeker back anytime soon. One of the reasons, of course, is that we have Welcoming Lantern, which gets a single strike supporter from your discard pile back to your hand, and Versus Seeker would make that card completely irrelevant, but also the existence of that card is basically saying, hang on a second, mate, we don't want Versus Seeker back. We have no interest in Versus Seeker. Here is a significantly weaker version of Versus Seeker that only works for some things, but this is our way of telling you that we're not getting Versus Seeker back, and that's okay. We've got Pal Pad. And Pal Pad's a really good card. Sometimes you're going to be playing a Disruption deck, and you're going to want to reuse the same supporter over and over again. Well, this is going to help you to do so. Sometimes it's going to be late game, and you're going to be out of gusting cards like Boss's Orders, and you're going to need to get them back very, very quickly. Well, great news, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to get your 2 Boss's Orders back into your deck, ready to use again. It's not going to get them back into your hand. You're still going to have to draw back into them. That's up to you. But in terms of getting these cards back into your deck, you know, if I've got 4 Boss's Orders and they're all in my discard pile, I'm done. This gets that Boss's Orders back into my deck, so I can then go ahead and reuse it, and life is good. And the fact of the matter is, if this rotated, we wouldn't have any great alternatives. We have alternatives. We just don't have great alternatives. I've already told you about Welcoming Lantern, but that's only for single strike. We've also got Cross-Seaver, which will actually get a supporter card from your discard pile straight into your hand. There is a massive catch. The massive catch is that you've got to play 2 of them at the same time to do it. Interestingly enough, this card existing also tells us that Versus Seeker is just not coming back, because there would be no reason to print this if we were going to get Versus Seeker back. And then we have got a way to just get our supporter cards back into the deck in a similar way to how Pal Pad does it, but it's Team Yell's Cheer, which will actually get 3 Pokemon and supporter cards, other than Team Yell's Cheer, from your discard pile into your deck. But it's a supporter card. It's not an item card, which obviously makes a very, very big difference. So supporter recovery was going to be a lot more awkward and a lot less good if we let this rotate out. We're not letting it rotate out. We're keeping it back. And this is one of the things I've been saying about Sword and Shield. I literally said it in a video yesterday when I was discussing which set you should be investing in. I told you that Scarlet and Violet was going to be a set that was very much worth investing in for players. And the reason I think it's going to be a set that's worth investing in for players is because it is a base set. It is the first set of a new block. And one thing that Pokemon does in the first set of a new block is they give you a bunch of staples that we're going to need moving forward. Because, of course, we know that at some point, a couple years' time, we are going to rotate to what is, it's going to be Regulation Mark G onwards, but it is going to essentially be rotating to Scarlet and Violet on. And that means that we're going to need a bunch of these cards to just set us up so that we don't end up in an awkward format with no Pokemon search and just no staple cards. And we've already seen this. We know that Professor's research is coming back for both Sada and Juro. We know that's happening. That's already been confirmed. We know that Ultra Ball is getting a reprint. I know some people don't want that card back. Gutting. It's back and it's going to be legal for another 3 years. We know that Beach Court is coming back, which, as I've told you before, is basically just a reprint of Sky Arrow Bridge. It reduces the retreat cost of basic Pokemon by 1. It's a really good card. And what Pokemon are doing here is they are basically saying, these are the cards that we think you're going to need moving forward, so we're giving them to you in this particular set. You're going to need some way to get your supporter cards back. So you know what? We're giving it to you here, ladies and gentlemen. We're letting you have them here. And I don't think, and correct me in the comment section if you disagree with me, I don't think Pal Pad coming back is going to be particularly controversial. I don't think people are going to be terribly upset about this coming back. It's a good card. It helps out a whole bunch of decks. It's not crazy overpowered. It's not one of those decks that is ruining the game right now. It's just It's there. If anybody's wondering, of course, we do know that there is a double set over in Japan, Scarlet and Violet. This is a card which is only, as far as we're aware at least, they haven't showed it off otherwise, only appearing in Scarlet. As it stands, there is no Violet version of this, so if you are over in Japan and you do want to get the reprint of Palpad, do make sure you go and pick up packs of Pokemon Scarlet, because if you pick up packs of Pokemon Violet hoping to pull this, you're going to be very disappointed indeed. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is coming back. It is being reprinted, and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. This is a very big deal, and sure, at the moment, it's seeing a bit of play, but not a huge amount of play. But the fact that this keeps it in the format for an extra 3 years really does make it irrelevant how much play it's seeing at this particular moment in time. That is really not what's important, because it's going to be around for a very long time yet. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus pods, join a Discord where we chat Pokemon, all kinds, and anything else to be fair, all kinds of fun things. Oh yeah, and get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Edgar Menares, who has been one of our supporters for a while now, and is a very lovely person, so thank you for the support, and thank you for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.